Okay, so everywhere you look right now, generative AI is just churning out content.
Oh, it's unavoidable.
Articles, images, code, I mean, even music. And almost as fast as that content appears, you get this immediate, very catchy label to dismiss all the bad stuff.
AI-Slop.
AI-Slop.
It's so effective, isn't it? That term, it just carries so much judgment that it basically stops the conversation cold.
Yeah, it
It
does.
implies a lack of effort, a lack of quality, and I think this is the crucial part, a lack of humanity.
It does. It sounds inherently awful, like something you'd scrape off the bottom of a barrel. But here's the thing. We've been going through a whole stack of sources that really challenge that label.
Right.
Not because we're trying to defend bad content, but because we need to ask what work that label is actually doing.
And that's really our mission in this deep dive. We need to figure out if AI slop is a useful warning label, a marker for actual garbage, or if it's just become a lazy dismissal.
A shortcut.
A shortcut, yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying to get a better handle on this, so we have to analyze what that term might be obscuring, especially around these really critical issues like access, status, and who gets to control information.
And what's really insightful is that our sources frame this whole discussion with some really specific context from a South African perspective.
This is such a great lens for this.
It's perfect. That localized view helps us see exactly how a precise, useful label can just rapidly lose all its power when it gets applied too broadly. It's a perfect case study for, like, linguistic inflation.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. If the term is losing its meaning, what was AI slop originally supposed to mean?
Well, originally, it was incredibly precise. The term was coined to describe content that was low effort, mass-produced,
Right.
and designed purely to game algorithmic systems. So think about the early days of generative text.
Okay.
Those hundreds of spammy, repetitive listicles or just really shallow articles that only existed to get clicks for ad revenue.
Not to actually inform anyone.
Yeah.
Not at all. It was all about industrial volume and monetization, not quality, not insight.
Right, the stuff that was flooding search engines and online stores just to make a quick buck. It was basically spam disguised as content.
Exactly. But the sources, they all highlight this really critical phenomenon, which is scope creep.
Scope creep.
The definition has quietly but very rapidly expanded. And so today, that term AI slop is often used to describe almost any content where a generative AI tool was involved in the process somewhere.
And it seems like that label sticks no matter what the outcome is. It doesn't matter if the thinking is sound or the output is accurate, or if the work was clearly edited and guided by a human expert. If the tool was there, the judgment follows.
The presence of the tool itself becomes the trigger for the dismissal, and that's the real danger of overusing it, right?
Yeah.
We have to ask the question, when does a useful, precise warning label about spam turn into just a generic, lazy dismissal?
It becomes a lazy dismissal when it loses its power to actually differentiate between things.
Precisely. And this is where that South African parallel from our sources is so illuminating. Think about terms like tenderpreneur or state capture.
Okay, yeah.
They started as these very forensic terms. They described highly specific, complex, even criminal acts of corruption. They were powerful tools for diagnosing a societal problem.
But I've noticed they're now used for almost any business deal you don't like, whether it's actually corrupt or just, poorly managed.
And when they become these catch-all insults, they lose their ability to differentiate. If everyone who deals with the state is a tenderpreneur, you can't isolate and prosecute the truly corrupt ones anymore.
The word loses its bite.
It stops being a sharp tool for analysis and just becomes a blunt instrument of anger.
So if we apply that to our deep dive, if every single piece of content that an AI touches is automatically called swap,
Then we lose the capacity to distinguish. We can't differentiate the actual malicious algorithm gaming garbage from, say, a piece of insightful research that was summarized effectively by an AI tool for a busy human editor.
that's the real cost then.
That's the cost of label inflation. It just blocks all the necessary nuance and stops us from targeting the actual bad actors.
And this shift, it takes us right into the gatekeeping angle. When people have that sort of gut reaction against AI-assisted content, is it always a critique of quality?
Or is it something else?
Or is it sometimes just shorthand for, I don't like this change, or maybe I don't like who this change benefits? We have to ask, are we criticizing the tool, Or are we uncomfortable with who has access to the tool now?
It's such a classic reaction to technological disruption.
Mm.
And the sources connect this to these really profound historical echoes.
Like what?
Well, we saw this skepticism when digital photography came out. You had purists arguing that film, the difficult, expensive medium, was the only true art.
Right. Digital was cheap, so it had to be inferior.
Exactly. We saw it again with Wikipedia. It was initially dismissed as inherently unreliable compared to traditional, vetted encyclopedias.
Oh, I remember that. Or the contempt that established print newsrooms had for online journalism. It was cheap, it was fast, so the assumption was it had to be poor quality.
Exactly. The assumption is that if something is made easy or cheap, it can't possibly hold any inherent value. And that connects directly to the class and status dynamics here.
Okay.
AI tools are massive democratizers. They dramatically lower the barrier to entry for really valuable skills.
Like high-level writing, coding.
Design, sophisticated research analysis,
Yeah.
all of it.
That is a huge point. I mean, historically, access to those high-value skills and the training you needed for them was incredibly expensive.
Oh, for sure.
It favored urban centers, privileged universities, and, well, wealthier communities.
The barrier to entry was economic and it was geographic.
Right.
If you were a small media organization in a remote area or maybe a startup entrepreneur, accessing specialized software or hiring a high-level research assistant,
Well, financially impossible.
totally impossible. So for a learner or an entrepreneur in a less resourced community, and again, the South African sources highlight this perfectly, that barrier wasn't just steep, it was often insurmountable.
And AI changes that whole calculation.
Completely. Think of the potential for a rural entrepreneur who can suddenly generate high-quality marketing copy and graphic design with AI tools because they can't afford an agency in Cape Town or Johannesburg.
Or what about an under-resourced school?
A severely under-resourced school where AI can help teachers synthesize complex curriculum materials or, generate test questions quickly. It's a lifeline.
It becomes an inclusion engine. It starts to level the playing field, at least when it comes to raw creative capability.
And this brings us to that crucial tension the sources identified. When established, well-resourced voices use the blanket term AI-Slop, are they really just protecting quality standards?
Or is this something else?
Or are they maybe subconsciously protecting their own status, the status that came from the exclusivity and difficulty of those skills in the first place?
It's the difference between protecting the craft and protecting the club.
That's a great way to put it.
When the barrier to entry collapses, the old gatekeepers often become the fiercest critics of the new entry point. They argue standards are falling, when maybe what's really falling is their own unique market value. That's a powerful insight.
It forces us to ask some really tough questions about the critic's intent.
But we absolutely have to be balanced here, because pretending that genuine industrial-scale garbage isn't being produced by AI would just be naive.
Of course.
Real AI slop exists, and it's a real threat to our information ecosystem.
That is fundamental. The sources insist that the label is absolutely valid, but only when it's applied specifically.
So there have to be criteria.
There have to be criteria.
Yeah.
The content is demonstrably unchecked, it's repetitive, it's produced at an industrial scale.
And it's designed only to game algorithms or deceive people.
Yes, and it comes with zero human accountability.
Okay, so we need more concrete examples of what counts as real slop, beyond just spammy articles. What does the worst of this actually look like?
Well, look at the economics of these industrial content farms. We're talking about massive operations where bots generate thousands of articles a day, focused only on ad revenue, regardless of the truth.
Like fake product reviews.
The proliferation of fake product reviews on e-commerce sites, generated en masse just to manipulate ratings.
Or the really dangerous stuff like low-quality health or finance advice.
Yes. A bot scrapes 5 medical websites, synthesizes a repetitive generic health article, and publishes it to rank high in searches. But that article has zero editorial oversight, no human accountability, and potentially dangerous inaccuracies.
That's real slop.
That is real slop. It's the industrial production of falsehoods or dangerous generalizations designed to deceive or just to extract clicks.
I think the key distinction the sources are making here is absolutely vital for you to get. The problem isn't that AI was involved in the process.
No, not at all. The core definitional problem is the lack of human responsibility.
Okay.
The human operator is using a powerful tool to generate unchecked material designed only to deceive or monetize or spread misinformation at a scale that was impossible before.
So the fault lies with the intent and the lack of accountability from the person running it?
Exactly. The AI tool simply enabled the malice or the sheer laziness. It didn't create the ethical vacuum.
That distinction, it brings us right into this double standard issue, the difference between how we judge the process versus how we judge the outcome.
Hmm.
As consumers of media, most of us don't really see how the sausage is made, right?
We don't.
We just see if the final product is good or insightful or accurate.
And that's the critical pivot point. We need to distinguish between two scenarios. Scenario one, a thoughtful journalist uses AI to quickly summarize, say, 50,000 pages of complex government documents to find a few key quotes.
Okay, that's a valuable human-guided process. It speeds up essential reporting.
Right. And scenario two, a malicious bot scrapes comments off of Reddit, synthesizes them into some inflammatory garbage article, and posts it instantly under a fake name.
One is responsible journalism using a tool. The other is industrial spam using the same tool.
But often both of them might get dismissed under the same umbrella term of AI-Slop just because the tool was used. That's the double standard in action.
And it links back to how we accept human imperfection. I mean, human-made content is often biased or poorly researched or sensational. We see bad journalism every single day.
We do. And if a badly written, lazy, poorly sourced article is made by a human, what do we call it?
Bad journalism.
We call it bad journalism. Maybe we criticize the editor or say the writer was having an off day. But if that exact same article is AI-assisted, we immediately jump to this unique, pejorative label, AI-Slop.
It suggests we're holding this new technology to a much higher, almost impossible ethical and quality standard than we apply to decades of mediocre human output.
We are.
Why should the mere presence of the tool trigger such a profound moral judgment when the same bad quality in a human writer doesn't?
I think it highlights the anxiety over displacement more than anxiety over quality. And again, look at the media context, particularly in places like South Africa, where local newsrooms are chronically underfunded and journalists are just completely overstretched.
Resource scarcity is a huge global issue for media.
It absolutely is. And in those contexts, AI accessibility isn't some luxury to replace humans, it's a necessity. It could be the difference between having no reporting on a crucial local budget decision or having some reporting.
Because the AI could handle the tedious data part.
Right, because the journalist used AI to handle the data synthesis, freeing them up to do interviews. To just dismiss that lifeline out of hand by labeling any product as slop is to ignore the reality of diminishing resources in local media. It actively starves struggling voices of necessary help.
So what does this all mean for us, for the audience? We've sort of established that the term AI slop is quickly losing its use through overuse.
It is.
And it's shutting down any hope for an honest, complex conversation about how we integrate AI.
Well, the cost of this lazy criticism is really significant because it prevents maturation. Overusing AI slop doesn't just block experimentation with the tools. It blocks us from setting up clear, transparent standards for how to use them responsibly.
So we get stuck.
We get trapped feeling morally superior for rejecting the technology instead of doing the hard work of defining and demanding quality.
You know, our sources even had this fascinating cultural note about this, how relying on sarcasm and these sharp, immediate labels, which can be a real strength in
It
conversation,
can also be a blocker.
can sometimes become a blocker to deeper analytical thinking. We get that quick dopamine hit of the dismissal, but we stop probing any further.
Yes, and we have to redirect that sharpness. Instead of using it just to dismiss things, we have to use it to analyze and demand transparency. I think the most important takeaway from the sources is the alternative framework they propose.
Okay.
We should retire the lazy catch-all and focus on 4 critical areas instead.
That's the framework of quality, verification, intent, and accountability. QVAI.
Exactly. It forces a completely different set of questions. Instead of just asking, was AI used? We start asking, what's the quality standard here? Is this information verifiable?
What was the human intent behind creating this?
And most critically, who is accountable if this information turns out to be wrong or malicious?
That approach, it encourages critical thinking in you, the listener. It treats us as informed citizens who can handle complex analysis rather than just spoon-feeding us a prepackaged judgment.
It stops the conversation from being about the tool.
And makes it about the human being who's wielding the tool.
And that ultimately is the responsibility we have to demand from content creators in this new era.
So that brings us to the end of this deep dive. We've tracked AI slop from a pretty useful warning label about industrial spam to a widely used weapon of dismissal.
A weapon that often masks anxieties about access, about class, and about who gets to wield powerful tools in the future.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. But the real value of knowledge, especially in a time of such rapid change, is understanding the context and identifying the true source of a problem. If we are genuinely concerned about bad content,
Which we should be.
which we should be, then the focus has to shift entirely to demanding robust human responsibility, transparent accountability, and verifiable quality, regardless whether the content was written with a pen, a typewriter, or an AI.
A really crucial shift in perspective. So here's the provocative thought for you to mull over as you navigate all this content yourself. Is the label AI-Slop actually helping us demand better, more transparent work from creators and companies,
Or is it just making us feel morally superior?
while allowing us to avoid the real conversation about access, resource inequality, and the ethics of human intent? We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.